What's up, everyone? I just got a couple minutes here, a little break while I'm making lunch. I want to try something different tonight, and it's something that I might try to start doing because I'm so busy. I did this debate on Antifa the other night, and unfortunately, I was having connection issues, so I was unable to do kind of the Discord call at the same time as to live stream it to my platforms. Now, for my YouTube audience, that doesn't much matter because I recorded it, and you can find that debate on my recent videos. 2 videos ago, I think, that talks. It's my debate, the whole thing, and then I also did a video kind of summarizing the debate. But for my audience on D Live, Twitch, and other places like that, they were unable to view this because of the problems I had with my connection. So what I'm going to try to do is I'll be working. I'm working most of the day today, so I won't be around. But what I'm going to do is set my computer at 5 p.m. Eastern time to play that entire debate, and it'll be as a live stream. That way, my audience on Twitch and D Live will be able to see that. Now, it'll also be broadcasting on YouTube, but it will be the exact same debate that you already saw if you watched it. You might be saying, Rob, say this, Rob, say that. I won't be at the computer. I'll be working. But I wanted to broadcast that for the people that don't use YouTube, that are unable to see the video and can only watch live streams. So that's the intent of what's going on. If this is successful, I might do this at other times where I might do a brief introduction, for example, and say, here was a video I did 3 months ago on Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and the corruption that was occurring with Burisma in Ukraine. And so I'll do an intro and then leave that 2-hour video play and then maybe come back afterwards and discuss it. But that way, I think that you'll be able to reach I'll be able to reach a bigger audience. And it'll also be stuff that's relevant to the news story of that day because the news cycle's so fast. Oftentimes, I cover a lot of this stuff before almost anyone in the country. And then 3 months later, it turns out I was right. The same's true with a lot of the COVID stuff and things like that. So it'll be an interesting experiment. Here's some problems that I could foresee with it. One, people might get fed up because they can't actually talk to me as it's going on because I'll be at work, which I understand that, but there's nothing I could really do about that. Second, if something occurs as a problem with the feed, I won't be there to fix it, so I could come back 2 hours later to find out. Yeah, thanks, Modus. I could come back 2 hours later to find out that the video stalled or something, and people were just staring at a blank screen, or it's playing something else stupid. But those are chances I'm willing to take, and this will kind of be a dry run on this type of idea. And if I could just say real quick, what's up, Jeff? If I could just say real quick, I don't think I had a perfect performance in that debate. I don't think I've ever had a perfect performance, but I went back and watched it again myself, and I think that I did quite well, all things considered. You could watch my summary of that debate on YouTube as well, but if you... Oh, thanks. Yeah, you could host it on D Live. No problem, Jeff. Again, it won't be me doing the debate live, though. This is just a repeat from Monday's debate because it wasn't able to be seen on Twitch and D Live. But if you'll notice how she interrupts and changes the subject and virtue signals all the time, it's tough to keep a clear head about that stuff. She makes all sorts of concessions, though. She's basically unwilling to cause the... She admits that, like, firebombing a police station would be an act of terrorism if Al-Qaeda did it, but then says that we can't use that word to describe Antifa from doing it. She concedes all of the violence that I point out and things like that. She just says we shouldn't use the word terrorism. Albert Einstein claimed to be an anti-fascist and he wasn't a terrorist. And I'm a terrible person for pointing out that the original Antifascista Action Group was actually a horrible group that helped lead to the rise in the Nazis because they were so brutal. They were an agents of Stalin. They were so brutal, and they went after anyone who was perceived as a capitalist that it forced people to decide between the horrible communists or the horrible Nazis. So she virtue signaled about how that somehow means I hate Jews. And if you could see, you can't see it, but if you watched it on Dylan's stream, basically everyone on his stream was accusing me of being a Nazi and things like that. So you can watch the debate and decide for yourself without my commentary what you think about it. I'd be open to suggestions. What's up, Washington Redskins, Washington football team? You could watch and decide for yourself if you think that, you know, there were, if you have constructive criticism, if you thought I did a terrible job, etc. But it's hard. You go in with a plan, and if you're arguing with someone in good faith, it's much easier, right? So I had like serious questions like, well, what is fascism? She never wants to give a stable answer, and that's how you can always tell that people are, you know, not interested in really getting the truth, but they're trying to obfuscate because they know that they're on the losing side of an argument. For example, she would ask me questions like, what do you think when John Wayne Gacy was killed by lethal injection that I was an execution? What was my answer? Yes. I didn't have to say, well, let me go on a 5-minute rant about... I was like, yeah, it's an execution, okay? I mean, to me, I could have had a better definition. Execution just implies you kill someone while they weren't fighting back. They didn't have a chance to fight back. Just because the police kills someone doesn't mean it's an execution if they were fighting back. Yeah, Chris, I didn't think it was my best either. I thought I did pretty good, though. But, again, it's because it's hard to argue with these people in bad faith. You know, when someone could look, for example, at Aaron J. Danielson, that was executed in Portland by Antifa, and say, well, you know, I watched that video, and maybe that was a shooting in self-defense. It's nonsense. When they could say the Chaz Zone, well, it wasn't that bad. It was to help homeless people. That's what was going on. The obvious, and this is the problem you get when you're debating people on the left. They ignore reality, and then you end up in this, instead of actually getting to a relevant discussion, you end up in this slog of, like, you have to argue, like, yes, there's been violence. You know, what is fascism? Oh, I can give you an exact example. Hypernationalism's leading to fascism, like you saw at the RNC. All the flags and criticizing the teachers' union. Oh, okay, so you're likening that to fascism. You're saying that's a step to fascism. That's not what I said. Go back and check the video. That's exactly what you said. You know? Oh, I don't care that they crucified that. What do I care what a bunch of communists think? That's, and by the way, Dylan, who I think is a fantastic moderator, so Chris Mayo says on, at one point, like, in the middle of the debate, every time I say something, Demon Mama goes, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. So I finally decided to do the same to her. I'm like, go ahead, say something. Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. And apparently everyone on Dylan's chat, the moderator's chat, was mocking me for that. I don't care at all what they think about me. I could, as far as I'm concerned, they're the least interesting people. They also thought I was a Nazi and were advocating violence against me and things like that. It would have never came to that if Dylan would have stepped in sooner, which he should have done. Now, I understand being a moderator is difficult, but when you leave me in the position where it's like I can't say 3 words without her interrupting me every single time, then eventually I'm going to have to do something. I don't like to be rude. I would like to leave the moderator handle that and not talk about those issues. But when she just filibusters and goes off about nonsense, and then as soon as I get a chance to respond, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Right, and Chris also says the discussion of how many different Antifa groups there are in Portland is especially pointless. But it's not pointless, though, when you think about it. Because her argument, my entire argument is this. Again, I didn't pick the topic for the debate, and I admitted during the debate and after the debate that I can't claim or prove that everyone that identifies as Antifa is terrorist. Just like I can't claim that everyone that identifies as a Nazi is a terrorist. What I can show is that the overarching groups that identify under that banner, almost all of them advocate political violence, particularly directed at civilian populations in order to achieve political change. That's terrorism. And that's almost the entirety of what we see of these organizations named Antifa that are out on the streets rioting doing. Her claim that, well, there are other groups in Portland that are Antifa that don't endorse that. I don't deny. I don't doubt there are probably other groups. Like, I would consider myself an anti-fascist. I don't think I'm Antifa. But I'm certainly, as far as what the word means, I'm against the idea of fascism. So when she's talking about groups that give meals out and things like that, fine. All I was asking, if you know all these groups in Portland that are Antifa that aren't about violence, can you just show me one example of them condemning violence? That's it. And she can't do it. She says, well, I wasn't prepared for this. That's the entire debate. Her entire strategy was going to be, no, not all Antifa. There's some Antifa that's good. Fine. She should have been prepared for that. Then show me evidence that there's Antifa groups out there saying, we condemn what these other anti-fascist groups are doing. We condemn that violence. Yeah, and the Black Bloc thing, that's another thing. Like, they link directly to Black Bloc that says exactly bring Molotov cocktails, slingshot, lasers to damage people's eyes, and things like that. So, all right, I gotta go work thing. But yeah, tonight, 5 p.m. Eastern, I'll be showcasing that debate. So thank you so much, everyone. As always,